So, if you're paying attention, you know that what's in the top banner of the Facebook group is probably not what we're talking about today. There's been a lot of shuffling this month between sickness and health and business
Vacations.
vacations. Um, so we are here, and instead of talking about video and me being Rena, today we are talking about Chat GPT and automation. Super fun because we're experimenting, and I know there was a lot of chat in the group about this. Steve brought this up, and so we've been using ChatGPT, and we thought we'd have a great conversation about it. So if you're joining us, join in. Let us know if you're using ChatGPT. We really want to know, and what you're doing with it. So if you are catching the replay and you see this, also just leave that comment anywhere, Facebook, YouTube. So Phelan, we work together. I guess we should introduce ourselves. Hi, I'm Pip, Seymour Digital Media.
And my name's Phelan, also Seymour Digital Media.
And our powers combined, we help businesses get to the top of Google with paid ads and SEO
SEO.
and organic ads. That's our main marketing thing we do. We do other things like you all, but uh, we are definitely more focused. Right now, we're more focused on Google ads too. I mean, we're doing a lot of SEO, but we are pretty focused on Google ads. Why is that, Phelan?
Well, one of the big ones that we'll kind of get into as we talk about it today is that it's much more scalable.
Mm.
So, Google's going out there and they're trying to find you the people so that, you're getting more conversions. Uh, Google's a little more active rather than, kind of like SEO is more like a gladiator fight and everyone's just fighting for the spots and then someone gets to be declared the winner
Mm.
as like out of, you get bequeathed the number one position. Um,
I like that actually. Yeah, so okay, what we're going to go over today is we're talking about everything Chat GPT, but we're going to talk about enhancing customer interactions and streamlining processes. We're going to talk about Chat GPT integrations and best practices. Uh, and personalizations. We're going to talk about blocking Chat GPT and ethics, data privacy, security, copy, written materials, and labor dispute disruptions or labor disruptions. And then Chat GPT automate applications and automations, streamlining repetitive tasks, customer support, and then there's a bunch of things in there. And then we're gonna wrap it up with a conclusion and a recap. So I'm super excited about today. Um, um, yeah. So what were you saying right before I rudely was like, "Oh, I gotta go over the outline."
well, we were just talking about like Google Ads because I think that's going to be a good lead into why we got really thinking about this, especially doing a deeper dive. Is that we've been looking at doing Google ad scripting, right? So adding some logical, like, if if there's a keyword and it's in the search term report, we want to know what it is if it's getting conversions because we want to tell the client, hey, should we bid on this? Should we be negativing this out? All this stuff. And so is there a way, because you can't just manually do all this stuff, but it's time consuming, you make
And you have to
mistakes.
pay somebody who's a developer, and it's super hard to understand unless somebody walks you through what's going on in the code. It's hard,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, I am so excited. I know, Phelan, you saw me the other evening. Yes, sometimes I work at night, but is it work if you love it? But so I was practicing. Now I am not a developer at all. Phelan, you've taught me kind of how to read what's going on in the code, and
Mhm.
I was able with ChatGPT to um, create code like chat or what is it, Google app script that lets us do some automations so that, as you said, we can get the conversions, the search term report showing us what's converting. And then we
Mhm.
can, I'm working towards being able to automate that so it goes into a Google Sheet. We see what search terms are creating conversions, and then I approve it if I want that search term to become a exact match keyword in possibly its own ad group. Oh my god, I would be so excited. Maybe not its own ad group, maybe that's a little much, but maybe I'll have an exact match ad group with quite a few number of keywords. Anyway, um, but the crazy thing about this is like when you ask Chat GPT to write the code for you, it writes the code, and if you put it in the script, sometimes the script won't work. And so instead of walking away, which is what I would think I would have to do, because I don't know coding, I just copy the error and paste it in Chat GPT and be like, fix this error. And it does it. And so it's worked. So I can technically code. I don't need a developer. Ooh, that should take us right into the labor issues
Yeah.
right there. So, if you're just joining us, we are talking about ChatGPT and what we've been doing, which is enhancing our Google Ads skills by creating code that lets us automate some of the processes. For instance, on manual campaigns, you have to go in every day and update the keywords to the top page bid or the top of the first page if you want to try to get in that auction. And so I've created some code, and so that's one of the codes I'll do. But the other coding I'm doing is the conversions and the ad groups and stuff. But this brings us to the ethics and the labor issues. So if Chat GPT can be like having 100 developers in your back pocket if you know how to use it, all of a sudden developer jobs, are they, do you think they're going away, Phelan? What do you think?
So I don't think it's gonna go. I think it's just gonna change. The harder time is that it used to be much more of like a skill that you learned is coding. As much as you could go to school for it, most of the time the schools don't actually teach you anything practical. They teach you a lot of theory about computer science.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I'm trying to
so
get
I think,
a comment up here that says,
yeah.
wow, that's interesting. Let me try to
Uh,
find it.
so
Okay.
I think that overall it's going to be something that's going to be very useful. I think for someone like us, that hiring for Google Ads or finding people that are going to do this, they're really hard to get a hold of. I
Mm.
think I think you need to make the text a little smaller in that.
Just a little smaller. Um,
Mm.
you know.
Uh, so I think that it's going to be good labor saving for a lot of agencies, and you're able to get a lot more teams out of this. The one good thing about using Chat GPT for Google Ads is that you're not getting the same issues that you would run into with SEO and Google and generative AI.
Okay,
Um,
so let's talk about those issues because that's kind of a, oh, this is messy.
yeah, I
We're
think you
working.
broke it.
I didn't break. Look, it's right there. I got it. It is interesting, isn't it? I
Mhm.
want to go and see who you are. Who are there? Is that you, Greg? Um, I believe it's somebody amazing. Anyway, let's continue on. Um, it's a lot, the Chat GPT. So if okay, so it is disrupting labor, and so who should be on the lookout to look for a new job? I guess that's what we should talk about, really, right? Like who, I mean, are you worried? I mean, I know I was a little worried, and I've now had clients. Oh, hi, Saiju. Is that how you say your name? I hope so. Yeah. Um, are you worried about your job, Phelan? Because you are a
Uh,
developer. That's a fair question, right?
yeah, I'm not really super concerned because a lot of it is like there's an old Pablo Picasso quote about computers that I always stand by. Computers are useless; they can only give you answers. Meaning that you need to be able to think up the question to ask ChatGPT.
Mm-hmm.
So even if it does all the coding, because a lot of the coding that it does is like I could do it, but it's boring. It's really boring. Like writing out the first draft of it and
Mm-hmm.
having it work well enough. That stuff is time consuming and annoying, and it's something that like even a senior developer they wouldn't really do it themselves. They would hire a junior developer because it costs like a third as much to have someone else muck about with it for a few hours to write up this simple script. Um, so I'm not super concerned with the ChatGPT at the moment for even doing some of the coding stuff because a lot of the stuff I'm getting it to do is basic, and I'm giving it the parameters. So it's not like thinking up like, oh, we should add these columns. It's just converting the question that I asked it into a snippet of code that only fits within the Google Ad script system.
So
So
there are always jobs that go away throughout times. When we
yeah,
moved here, they told us about this job that people used to have where they had to run down to an office to get schematics of a house, or I don't know, they had to do something with paper. And so that job just went away. Jobs will change, and maybe it will be like, how some people can't read a circular clock anymore. I mean, I don't know, with the hands, some people can't write in
person.
cursive.
Yeah.
Is it necessarily to learn cursive? Like, languages get lost, things change. It's like, cashiers jobs are less, right? But there's a managing cashier to manage all the machines. So we get to spend our time either doing more leisurely things, hopefully, or we get to pursue higher level things, more interesting things, and which can maybe help humanity. Right now we're, trying to kill ourselves a little. I'm like, so maybe we can use this stuff for good in the end, right? You're not super worried either. That's awesome. I always said, when people complained about like the grocery store situation, I was like, well, you now have the ability to improve. We just need our governments and things like this to offer changing our education, upping our education. I mean, we're all stronger together, right? When we move forward, and we've gotten so far getting this educated. Imagine what we can do when we don't have to do the repetitive silly tasks of like coding. Now, granted, then we might not know how to code, so if the system just doesn't work, then we might be hooped. But hopefully there's a textbook somewhere.
Well, yeah, but I also think that you do need to learn some of the fundamentals on knowing how to read and like read the code. Like even you don't necessarily have to know what each function like does specifically. You can always read the reference papers for like, oh, what does this function do? And
Yeah.
then you can
Well,
go read it.
that's how you helped me, because it
Yeah.
was so helpful to have somebody sit and be like, this means this and this means this. And then so I was like, oh, okay. Right.
Or if you just read it out as a sentence, right? That's what how I really learned, and it was a lot easier. It's like, while there is still another row to go in this spreadsheet, when there is a row, find me the name in this column, the like,
Mhm.
like that kind of, you just talk it through. And then obviously it's like written out as code. So it just makes life a little bit easier for you to kind of reason it out.
Yeah, I think if you jump on, like, you're really right about the developers, designers, content writers are all super scared, for sure. They are, because, I mean, business owners are starting to know about it. I had a business meeting, what was it, 2 weeks ago, where the client said, can't you just put it in Chat GPT and like get all the information? And I wish I wish that was the case, but it's not
Yeah.
yet, right? Like, you do need to check things. People are blocking. So this was a great point that Steve brought up in the Facebook group, um, that people are blocking their websites getting scraped. And Phelan, I know you wanted to talk about this, the data and privacy and security issues, right? That
Yeah.
that that so, but this isn't like stopping, um like blocking your website with a robot.txt file, is it?
Well, so there's a couple of things that are going on with that. So there's one that what they're doing is they're blocking the AI crawlers from going over people's websites.
But
They're
isn't
still
Google's algorithm an AI? Yeah. So how are they
so
separating the two?
it's generative AI systems rather than large language model information retrieval. So it's like what it is like what they're doing is they're saying like, okay, we've cast over the entire internet, and now we know which website has the best blog post about hummingbird care.
Mhm.
Okay. And because of that, we can spit it back at you that here, this is what this page says about it. And then here's a link to the page. They're not taking your web page of what's the best hummingbird care with another person's and then creating a third one out of that, which
Mhm.
is what OpenAI does. So it's slightly different, right? They're not trying. Google's not trying to create something new out of those ones, which a lot of Chat
Okay.
GPT systems are trying to do. They're trying to create something new, and so those systems are getting blocked versus people that are doing large language models that are just combing a bunch of information and then synthesizing it and regurgitating it back to you.
Yeah, so that's that component of search, right? So this is my
Yeah.
favorite class actually in our SEO course, which is actually the first class we do, which is search and SERPs. And Google basically, Google's job is to file, index, right? And
Yeah.
rank, right? So the three things it or crawls, indexes, um, crawls and indexes basically is the most important things it does. So when Google does an algorithm update, it is just doing that and updating the best content to come to the top for SEO. So have I used Chat GPT for SEO stuff? I have a little bit. I've used it for local SEO stuff. So for
Mm.
the services or the product descriptions, but I then take it and we'll put it through um, like Grammarly or a Hemingway app, and just so that and then test it so it's not doesn't come across as AI generated. And if you do those three things or two things in that, um, I feel confident using that. So I still think I need a writer to help with some projects. Like I don't think ChatGPT is capable of doing. Well, I mean, I know I've heard they've graduated like law and done the LSATs and stuff. But I just think you need some personalization in what you're doing. And that, funnily enough, brings us to buying the paid version of ChatGPT, right? Which allows you to do additional automations and use additional applications, which is super cool. We tried to use the Google Ads one, didn't we? To generate the copy for Google Ads. It was terrible. It was not anything I actually would or could. I couldn't recommend. It was so bad that it put an exclamation mark at the end of every sentence. And if you know Google Ads, every sentence then gets flagged because you're not allowed to have that in. So literally, you have to go through 15 headlines and correct where a stupid exclamation mark. It was terrible. But so but it was a plugin because Chat GPT has an API. So lots of companies are using it. Like we've seen it with Grammarly. I've seen it in WordPress, right? And so they're just
But
opening up.
Zoom
How are they
just
doing it,
integrated it.
developer guy?
Uh,
How is Grammarly pulling in Chat GPT abilities?
So what they're doing is, they would take your email you were going to write, and then you'd say, "Hey, fill in a couple more paragraphs talking about blah blah blah." And so, because if you're writing it in their platform, then they'll just add a bunch more text for you in. Like, I think this is in the desktop app. I haven't really used it that much. The other one that just came up yesterday was Zoom's got an AI to do summaries of what you talked about in a meeting.
Oh yeah, we were gonna try that.
Yeah, we were going to experiment with that today. um because that would definitely help with a lot of, because like a lot of things that the best way to look at ChatGPT is just taking care of like things that are kind of boring and repetitive. Like that's the best way to look at it. um Anyone that's thinking it's going to become like, fully self-aware or self-conscious, like that, just get out of here. That's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, and Google was talking about, so Google has this option in for local SEO for restaurants where you can turn on the automations or you can create the dialogue, right? They ask a question, you answer it, which is quite interesting.
Yeah.
So this stuff is already in certain places, right? Now, it'll get better over time. And I think so my takeaway from all of this is like if you jump in and start learning how to use it to your advantage, you're going to be one of the people that ends up better off than if you just stress about the fact that it's going to take your job, or it seems to be helping us figure stuff out. And if you can run a company with less people, yeah, and maybe there'll be more companies because more of us can actually run companies without so many people, right? So there you go. There's, instead of less people being employed, more people become business owners. Oh, that'd be awesome, right? I don't know
Yeah.
what the
Or
percentage of the population is that are business owners.
I think 17%. off the
In
top of my head.
Canada or worldwide?
Canada.
Oh, okay, so that's it?
Yeah, it's not a ton of people. I mean, that's still like 3 million to 4 million people.
Mm.
So it's not like
And
that's a small amount of people.
anyway, we're back at it. What about, okay, so
Um,
with the new
so
bot
hold on.
what
We only
what
covered one of the legal issues. So there's one other big legal issue that could actually just send all of ChatGPT crashing down, which is copyright violation.
Mm. That's why we couldn't
Um,
do Google couldn't um scan every book and put it on the internet because,
yeah,
right?
because
Um
well, they got sued by I think one of the major publishing houses back when they still had a lot more power.
I
But
like this. AI consulting for small businesses. Yeah, totally. Right? Actually, that's very smart. I saw in Upwork, because I was looking in there, they have an actual segment of people that'll do AI stuff for
AI
you. So
prompts, yeah, AI
yeah,
prompting, yeah, that's a new market that's um,
developing. It is really interesting. Now, I will say, telling ChatGPT to fix an error in code was brilliant, and I can't believe it worked. And it changed my it's changed my whole life because I want to be able to. I would love to be able to code because I would love to be able to integrate those automations into Google Ads. I think it's super hard to teach people like Google Ads. You have to be doing it for years. Like I've been working in Google Ads since 2010. And I mean, granted it was a slow burn learn. But Phelan, how long have you been in Google Ads now? 6 years, 7 years?
yeah, it's got to be six
Yeah.
years 2018
Was
would have
it?
been
Yeah, okay.
20.
So yeah, and it's changed a lot. I mean, you actually know things because you focus more on like the performance max and things like that, and the e-commerce side. I focus more on the local SEO side, local ad side. Anyway,
Yeah,
um, so legal issues are and
yeah,
ethics. That's where
well,
we're
I
at.
think
The
I
boring
didn't
stuff.
finish one of the points,
What?
just of just well the because ChatGPT or OpenAI, the company that runs ChatGPT, was going to get sued because they had to openly admit that they had 20 million copyright violations in their code base.
Mm.
uh
Did they admit that they are
I
being sued?
mean, he,
Are they not? They are being sued.
no, that's the whole point of why Microsoft stepped in. It's because Microsoft wanted them not to get sued, so they stepped in and basically, kind of like a mafia don, just said like hands off because they've got Microsoft lawyers, and so they're basically, it was someone saying like one of the major companies saying no, you're not touching these guys, and
Mm.
so
Yeah. I
but
think Glenna posted something in the group about she did a I think it was penguins and cars. She was using the chat GPT Bing or automation with images. So I thought that it looked pretty good. It
mm,
was so yeah, which brings in I guess photos. You'd have to be careful of what you're generating and checking, right? You
yeah.
gotta check. I mean, you gotta check your references, right? If chat GPT is saying like 71% of people blah blah blah, you better source that, in my opinion, right? Because sourcing
Yeah.
is super important because that helps with education. So um are those the only things? We have some ethics stuff. So one of the things we do use automations for that we've been using a long time actually is we use something called Descript. And Descript has the ability to um, record your voice. And then if you make a mistake in, say, a video or an audio recording, you can actually change it and replace the text and have your voice say that word so it fixes. That can contribute to deep fakes and misinformation, things like that, which we've seen in the public. And who hasn't seen the deep fake of a president talking? And so ethical concerns come up. Websites are now websites like Descript. They actually have a section on ethics in their website and how they approach the topic, which I think is really good, right? Um,
Well, and also they have the person whose voice that they're going to emulate. You have to read out a thing saying, "I comply with having my voice digitally altered by Descript." Like you have to read out a thing so they have you as a record, like I approve of you doing this,
Yeah.
which I think is good on their part as well.
But I mean, that stuff's awesome, right? So I think the conclusion of this whole video is that, yeah, it's pretty cool stuff and you should get into it, because the more we understand and know about this stuff, the better we can use it, so we don't get left behind in marketing, right? Because, um, some people want to automate marketing, right? And I mean, there's things like Canva. A friend of mine, Aura, actually taught me this great thing in Canva about how you can basically upload a bunch of um, text and it can just fill in your images, and bam, you got your, prompt posts for a month. Um, I have to go and rewatch that though, because I still don't know how to do it properly. But there's some really cool automations out there. Are you all using any automations? And what are you doing? I really want to know, because I've downloaded some prompt stuff, but honestly, it's like the prompt stuff is like, act like a politician, act like an engineer. And I'm like, this is boring. I think mine of the correcting code was better. Yes. Um, Ooh, you use the AI image in Canva. That's exciting. Now, Phelan, have you tried anything? What are you trying with code and stuff?
Well, I'm gonna be diving into it more with over the weekend of the Google Ad script, and I also want to see if it can do Google App script. So you can write scripts for your ads, like we
Mm,
talked about earlier, but you can also get like we have a spreadsheet that has like a whole sidebar, all this additional functionality. It's because Google allows you to extend docs, slides,
mm.
and spreadsheets.
Yeah.
So
Well, and so that's a funny thing, because you can, in the paid version, it says you have access. The reason we got the paid version is because supposedly you had access to all these plugins, and then I paid for it, and I swear I'm the smartest. I'm the smartest cookie in the box. I was like, "Where are the plugins?" And no, no, that's just not how it works. So what happens is other systems that use, like, so Google Sheets and Docs, right? That's where the plugin is for, writing the scripts, or wherever. It's quite interesting. You have to be willing to click around. I think that's the rule of the internet. Just click around and you'll figure it out eventually. But you did help me with that. Mind you, it was terrible. So I will tell you all my secret, not so secret once I tell you, way to generate copy for ads. And if I could create something that does this, what I do is I go through reviews, and I pull the text out of the reviews, because that's the exact language that the client's customer is using. And so that's the exact language I want to use, right? And then if your client really knows their clientele, we record our meetings and we'll pull out exactly what the client says. I swear it makes the best ads. But that's so if I can automate those things, I'm all over it. But so far, I'm the automation process. Um, and somebody just got the biggest tip of the world and ran off and just started doing it. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Are there any other things we should conclude and recap what we talked about? So we talked about the different ways you can use ChatGPT. We're specific to Google Ads because it's what we're focused on. We talked about security, data, and privacy, labor disruptions. We talked about applications and automations. Um, and we talked about enhancing customer interactions and streamlining processes, and just jumping into it versus hiding from it, right? Did I
Yep.
miss anything, Phelan? What do you think?
No, I think we covered it, and maybe the legal issues as well that might be coming up.
And the
You
labor
mentioned
disruptions. Yeah,
ethics.
yeah, the ethic. Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot. So we're going to be talking about this
Yeah,
more and more. If you are paying attention to this topic, or you want to talk about the blah, 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 you want to talk about it more, just post something in the Facebook group, just in the main feed, and we will talk about it. If you're joining us from YouTube or another business channel, just know that we're in Cyberpunk Geeks Marketing Mixer. It is a Facebook group for marketers and people who love marketing, who are willing to support each other in their growth. Yeah, so we'll see you in there if you haven't joined yet. Okay, bye. See you next time.
bye.
Bye.